guys, Eric Corner here, bpisecurity.com, weekly announcement and daily blog all in one. As I mentioned last week, I was going to do a critique of the Protective Security Council conference held in Baltimore, Maryland last week on today, so here it goes. All in all, there were probably less than 50 registrants that showed up, and it was a conglomeration of corporate CSOs, company owners, leaders, and I would say independent contractors looking to expand their network in the industry. The low numbers actually made for a more intimate setting for networking. I got a chance to reacquaint myself and catch up with specialists and company owners that I've worked with in the past and hadn't seen in a couple of years. So that was a good thing. The other thing, it allowed for us to have a more intimate conversation after the session with the speaker and the other people who had registered for that session. So that part was good. I believe that the numbers were low for two reasons. Number one, I think that we should call the conference what it is, an Executive Protection Security Council conference. I personally think that more people will show up, and here's the reason why. When I was pushing this conference, once Larry Snow asked me to help push it, I was getting emails, texts, and phone calls asking me what was the conference about. The problem with it was they weren't, number one, they weren't going to the website to find out, but they wanted to know if it had anything to do with executive protection. And I would send them back to the website and tell them to look for themselves and see if there was anything there interesting for them. That's number one. Number two, when I had a lengthy conversation with Larry Snow, we're not able to push this conference earlier than we are, which means that it doesn't give people time to reach in their pockets or to save the money for the conference up until the day that the conference starts. So I think that's the second reason. One of my main critiques about this conference was that I think we missed the mark on these panel discussions. We had two panel discussions. One was on executive protection and the other one was on security management. Every time we got around to the real issues, we skirted around it. I mean, it was like somebody threw a grenade in the room every time a real issue came up and we got off of it. That was number one for me, where I was kind of, I guess, disenchanted with the conference because I thought that we were going to be able to hit those things and address them with all these leaders in the room. I mean, you had leaders in this room. It was almost like a LinkedIn meets Facebook group, and we conversed on Twitter. That was the mixture. You had leaders in that session, well, rather in the conference, that you see on LinkedIn all the time. You never see them on Facebook. And they were intermingling with the other experts in the conference who do all four: LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, as well as YouTube. So it was a mixture, but it was an opportunity for us to have good conversations, and I think we missed it out of the park. Speaking of social media, it came up every day, and I've come to the conclusion that social media is still a bad taste and a bad word in many of these experts and leaders' minds. Many of them have not gravitated to social media because they hear all the negative aspects of social media, which is a lot of it is true, but they have not gravitated to it to understand how to use it on a relevant side and impact the industry. So that was something that I found that was quite interesting in the fact that there was a lot of negativity about social media. Some of the topics that I attended were great topics. Was on day one, I went to Christian West, who owns AS Solutions out of Seattle, Washington. His topic was from a one-man operation to a global provider. Great presentation by Christian West. The second one I went to on day one that I enjoyed immensely was Frank Gallagher's session on caring and feeding of CSOs and CEOs. Frank did an excellent job. He touched on every aspect of the detail and how you marry those aspects up with the psychology of the CSO, as well as marrying that up with the CEO or your protectee. Great job, Frank. Day two, one of the things that sticks out in my mind was Edgar Mosquera's session on contracts. Edgar is a former police officer. He's actually an attorney that does EP in Chicago, Illinois. He did a great job. On day two. We had another panel discussion on day two, which was on security management. And once again, I felt that we missed the mark on the real issues of the industry. Day three, there were a couple of sessions on day three, which ended the conference, but the one that stuck out was the HUD agents that came in and talked about their session called Road Trip. And they basically went from how they started detail, how they travel, and all the logistical nightmares that are on travel with them from a federal government side. But the key is they brought it back down to the private sector side. And I was very, very comfortable and at least happy that they did that. They didn't speak from a all federal agent side and then we just had to figure it out. No, they brought it down to include asking the session, the attendees, how do you guys deal with this? So I think all in all, it was a great session. For me, I gave the session grades each day, but that really doesn't really give the session a proper grading. For me, the grade that I want to use is, do I feel that I wasted my money? And the answer is no. Do I think there's room for improvement? The answer is absolutely yes. It was not a waste of my money. I didn't waste my time. I didn't go there trying to learn a how-to of anything. I just wanted to go there to see where everybody was with these issues that I talk about every day and that we talk about on NABA, we talk about all over the social media, and see where everybody was. And for me, I think that there's a wide gap between what the corporate CSOs know on the ground and what actually happens on the ground. By the time we put somebody in their space, we've already dealt with all the issues and they don't know those issues. Now the question is, should they know those issues? That's up for grabs. You have to answer that yourself. I think they should, because the vetting process on the companies they're using should be more stringent. But that's for everybody else to determine. So I've given you my evaluation of it. It was not a waste of my time. If you want a grade, I give it a B+ overall. It was a great opportunity to network. If you missed it, I encourage you to look out for the next one and show up. As a side note, me and Larry, excuse me, had our session on Thursday at 3 o'clock to 5:30, and we went up against Dave Johnson. And our session, rather, was on branding and marketing in the new era, basically. And we went up against Dave Johnson, who was teaching executive protection assessments. So it was a tough, I'm not going to say battle between us and Dave, but we had a nice little group of private company owners that showed up. And surprisingly, even the company owners who were there that I thought were more aggressive in their marketing and branding were really not as aggressive as I thought. And after the session was all over with, they came up to me and Larry asking us, can we get in touch with, could they get in touch with us later to go over some things? And I said, absolutely, absolutely could. So all in all, I give it a B+ if you need a letter grade. But for me, I did not waste my money and I got something out of it. All right. As I'll leave this message as I leave all of them. When you're on the detail, there are two protectees, the man or woman in the back right seat and your reputation. Either one get harmed, you're done.